Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Council, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp as orbital lasers. The massive chamber, with its soaring crystalline spires and floating platforms, housed representatives from over 3,000 spacefaring civilizations. Most of them were watching her with what she had come to recognize as the universal expression of patronizing amusement. As is customary, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic enhancement field. I must preface our trade agreement with humanity's standard diplomatic warning. A ripple of chittering laughter spread through the assembled aliens. They had heard this before. The Mraxix delegate, a towering insectoid, leaned forward on its gravity platform. Yes, how amusing. The part about not making you angry, correct. Most entertaining. Sarah didn't smile. In the spirit of complete transparency, I am obligated to remind the Council that humanity has experienced total civilizational collapse due to warfare. We have rebuilt from radioactive ashes 3 times in our recorded history. Each time, we have emerged stronger, more cautious, and better prepared. In the upper tiers, a gelatinous Vex Prime pulsed with colors that their translator rendered as derisive laughter. And yet you come to us with ships that can barely achieve 0.4 light speed. Your weapons are kinetic and chemical. Your shields are primitive. This warning would carry more weight if you had the capacity to enforce it. That's an interesting assumption, Sarah replied, her tone unchanged. But I would direct the Council's attention to humanity's history of technological development. In particular, our tendency to maintain significant defensive capabilities while displaying only modest public advances. At the far end of the chamber, Ambassador Kex of the Arctians shifted uncomfortably. His ancient species was known for their extensive historical archives and their tendency to survive catastrophic galactic events. The clicking of his mandibles drew several curious glances. Is there something you wish to add, Ambassador Kex? The Council leader's voice boomed through the chamber. Only that we should perhaps consider the human warning with more gravity, Kex responded, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of concern in his natural voice. Our archives suggest. Your archives suggest everything and nothing, interrupted the Zix representative, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of dismissal. The humans are barely a century into their spacefaring age. Their colonies are few. Their military presence minimal. These warnings are clearly a diplomatic ploy to seem more formidable than they are. Sarah waited for the commentary to subside. We come seeking peace and cooperation, she continued, as if there had been no interruption. Our scientific advances, particularly in medicine and sustainable energy, are freely offered. We ask only for fair trade and the recognition of our sovereignty. And yes, we warn you not to provoke humanity to anger. Not because we wish to fight, but precisely because we don't. Pretty words, the Zix representative chimed, literal crystals chiming with their speech. But the galaxy runs on power, not poetry. Perhaps if humans spent less time composing mornings and more time advancing their technology, they would have a real seat at this table. For the first time, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. It didn't reach her eyes. I find it interesting that you interpret our technological position based solely on what we've chosen to display. Humanity has learned that peace is best maintained through strength, but strength need not be constantly paraded. As the trade agreement moved forward to its inevitable ratification, few noticed Ambassador Kex quietly accessing his personal quantum terminal. None saw the orders he sent, initiating the movement of his species' most precious artifacts to secure facilities far from human space. The Arctians had survived 17 galactic conflicts by recognizing patterns, and something in the human ambassador's calm demeanor set off ancient warning signals in his genetic memory. The Council would learn, as so many had learned before, that humans didn't warn out of fear or bravado. They warned out of mercy. The Zix battle cruiser Crystal Prominence hung in space above Research Station Europa 7, its crystalline hull refracting starlight into deadly prismatic patterns. Commander Shix watched the small human facility through multiple spectrum analyzers, their crystalline body vibrating with contempt. "Confirm scan results," they ordered. 23 primary life signs, their sensor officer reported. Standard research configuration, minimal defensive capabilities. Their shield generator is barely military grade. Shix's crystalline form chimed with satisfaction. After the human ambassador's presumptuous performance at the council meeting 3 cycles ago, the Zix Confederation had decided to demonstrate the true hierarchy of galactic power. A simple trade dispute over mining rights in the Proxima system had provided the perfect pretext. "Send the final warning," Shix commanded. "Let's follow their precious protocols." The human response came immediately, in clear, unencrypted channels. "This is Dr. Elena Martinez, Chief Researcher of Europa 7. We are a civilian research station working on cross-species medical innovations. Our current projects include treatments for crystalline degradation syndrome, which affects juvenile Zix. Please confirm your intentions." Shix ignored the mention of their species' most devastating childhood ailment. "Your presence violates Zix mining claims. You were warned to evacuate." "We are transmitting our registered claim documents now," Dr. Martins replied, her voice steady. "Additionally, I must inform you that attacking this station would be unwise." More human warnings. Shix's crystalline laugh resonated through their bridge. "Fire primary batteries." The crystal prominence's weapons flared to life, sending precisely calculated energy beams toward the station. The minimal shields collapsed almost instantly. As the station began to break apart, a quantum transmission burst from its communications array. On the bridge displays, Dr. Martinez's face appeared one final time. She wasn't looking at them, but at something off-screen. "It's okay, kids. Remember what we practiced, just like the drills." Shix's sensor officer suddenly chittered in alarm. "Commander, additional life signs detected in the educational wing. The station's running a full family program. There are." The transmission cut through their report. "Europa 7. Final log. Dr. Elena Martinez reporting. Time is 3:42 standard. Present at time of attack. 23 research staff. 39 children attending our education program. 4 visiting family members. We were working on..." Her voice cracked slightly. "We were working on saving their children." The station erupted in a final explosion, and silence fell across the bridge of the crystal prominence. The sensor officer's crystalline form had paled to an almost translucent state. 43 children, they whispered. "It changes nothing," Shix declared, but their voice carried a new harmonic of uncertainty. "Send the victory report to High Command. The humans must learn their place in the galactic order." The response from Earth came 7 minutes later, not from their diplomatic corps or their military command, but from their planetary quantum array. It was a simple data burst, broadcasting on all frequencies in every known language. First came the names and ages of the dead. Then came images. Dr. Martinez teaching xenobiology to a mixed class of human and alien children. A breakthrough celebration as the team synthesized a new treatment for crystalline degradation. Birthday parties, research milestones, families growing together on humanity's furthest research outpost. The final image showed Dr. Martinez holding the Zix child during a treatment trial 6 months ago. The child's crystalline form glowed with perfect health. After that, Earth went silent. Not just diplomatic channels, but all human communications across their sphere of influence ceased simultaneously. Trade ships quietly returned to port. Civilian vessels disappeared from common space lanes. Even their primitive radio broadcasts, which had been streaming into space for centuries, fell quiet. In the following days, as the Zix Confederation celebrated their successful show of force, only the Arctians seemed to understand the significance of the silence. Their ships began appearing at the edges of human space, but they weren't advancing. They were retreating. Ambassador Kex sent one final message to the Council before the Arxian embassy closed. You misunderstood their warnings. They weren't trying to intimidate us. They were trying to protect us from themselves. The Zix patrol fleet, Crystalline Vindication, cruised through the asteroid belt of Sol's system, their sensors sweeping for any sign of human activity. After 8 days of complete silence, High Command had ordered a show of force near humanity's homeworld. Commander Vix, Shix's broodmate, led the formation with confidence born of superiority. Another empty sector, the sensor officer reported. Just dead rocks and ice. Commander. As expected, Vix chimed. Their silence is admission off. A low-frequency burst cut through all communication channels. Deep within the asteroid belt, thousands of seemingly solid rocks began to shift. What appeared to be ancient craters split open like blooming flowers, revealing dark cavities beneath. Multiple energy signatures. The sensor officer's crystalline form vibrated with alarm. Hundreds, thousands, they're everywhere. From Venus, massive cloud ships emerged from the perpetual storm cover, their hulls composed of materials that had masked them from all known scanning techniques. Beneath Europa's ice, entire production facilities surfaced, their true nature hidden for decades beneath what the galaxy had dismissed as a primitive research outpost. Impossible, Vix whispered, their crystalline form clouding with fear. Their technological level was a lie, came a voice over their command channel. Admiral Helena Chen, daughter of Ambassador Sarah Chen, appeared on their screens. She sat in what appeared to be a command center that utterly dwarfed anything in the Zix fleet. Or perhaps more accurately, a choice. The hidden facilities began launching ships. Not the crude vessels the galaxy had come to expect from humanity, but sleek predators that moved with impossible grace. Each bore the emblem of the Solar Defense Force, an organization whose existence had never been hinted at in any diplomatic record. You see, Admiral Chen continued, her voice carrying the same calm tone her mother had used in the council chambers, we learned something important from our past. The race that displays its strength invites challenge. The race that parades its weapons invites war. So we chose a different path. Another signal cut through space, and the Jupiter shipyards revealed themselves. Orbital rings that had been masked as natural debris showed their true nature, each one a massive construction facility that had been operating at full capacity for over a century. Those civilian ships you've been scanning, training vessels, the outdated weapons you've been mocking, public demonstrations, while the galaxy laughed at our warnings, we built. While you dismissed us as primitive, we prepared. Every ship you see now is crewed by veterans of 1 million simulated battles, every weapon tested against defenses far superior to yours. The Zix fleet found themselves surrounded, not by ships positioned through tactical genius, but by vessels emerging from hiding places that had existed long before the Zix ever entered the system. The research station you destroyed. Admiral Chen's voice hardened slightly. It wasn't just studying medical breakthroughs. It was proving that peace was possible. That strength could be used to protect rather than dominate. You didn't just kill our people. You killed our hope that this day could be avoided. A new class of vessel emerged from Mars's polar ice caps, massive carriers that made the Zix flagship look like a scout ship. Their sensor officers' readings showed power signatures that shouldn't have been possible with known physics. We hid our strength not out of weakness, but because we remembered what it meant to lose everything. We buried our weapons in ice and rock and gas, not to deceive, but to prevent their use. We warned you about our anger not because we wanted to fight, but because we knew exactly what would happen when we did. The human ships took up perfect formation positions, their movements suggesting countless hours of drill and preparation. Admiral Chen's final words echoed through every vessel in the Zix fleet. You didn't discover our deception today. You discovered why we chose to hide our true nature. Because once unveiled, it cannot be unseen. Once awakened, it cannot be easily put back to rest. You thought our warnings were diplomatic posturing. Now you'll understand. They were desperate attempts to avoid this very moment. The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos as Ambassador Kext stepped onto the central platform. Behind him, holographic displays showed the human fleet's emergence from hiding, their numbers far exceeding anything previously thought possible from such a young spacefaring race. "I speak now," Kext began, his mandibles clicking in the ancient rhythm of grave testimonial, because silence has become more dangerous than truth. The chamber's walls shimmered as he activated the Arxian historical archives, transforming the space into a three-dimensional record of events from over 50,000 years ago. The assembled representatives gasped as they saw Earth, not as the blue-green world they knew, but as a burning wasteland of shattered continents and boiled oceans. "This was humanity's first fall," Kext continued. "Not their last, as they believe, but their first recorded extinction-level event. The species you see here reached further than their descendants know. They touched stars, reshaped worlds, and then," he paused, mandibles trembling, "they met the Devourers." The hologram shifted to show massive organic ships, tentacled horrors that consumed entire worlds. The ancient humans fought back with weapons that bent space itself, sacrificing solar systems to stop the advance. In the end, they succeeded, at a price that nearly wiped them from existence. "But they did something unprecedented," Kext said. "Something we had never seen in all our records of fallen civilizations. They prepared for their own extinction." The display showed massive construction projects on Earth's moon, deep beneath the surface. Vast archives of knowledge, technology, and history, hidden where their descendants might one day find them. The ancient humans encoded their memories into the very DNA of their species, ensuring that even as civilization fell, certain instincts would survive. Every time humanity rebuilt, Kext explained, they discovered these catches earlier in their development. Each time, they understood more. What you see now, their hidden fleets, their impossible weapons, these are not the achievements of the century of spacefaring. They are the culmination of 50,000 years of preparation. In the upper tiers, the Zix representatives' crystalline form had dulled to an ashen gray. "You knew this," they accused. "You knew and said nothing." "We warned you," Kext countered. "Every time you dismissed their ambassadors' cautions, we urged restraint. But you forgot the most important lesson of history. The species that survives extinction never forgets its scars." The hologram showed a final message, found in the deepest vault of the lunar archives. Written in ancient human script, it was dated moments before their civilization fell. "To our children, we give you our knowledge, but more importantly, we give you our wisdom. Learn from our hubris. Build in secret. Trust cautiously. Prepare thoroughly. And when you reach the stars again, remember, the universe is vast and wonderful, but it is also merciless to the unprepared. We died because we displayed our strength like peacocks, drawing the attention of predators. You will live because you will learn to hide your thorns beneath your petals. Everything humanity has shown us," Kext concluded, "every primitive ship, every outdated weapon, was a choice. They found the archives during their first lunar landing. They've spent every moment since preparing for a war they hoped would never come." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden their capabilities, they had hidden their very nature as a species born from the ashes of multiple apocalypses. "The humans have a saying," Kext added softly. "Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. But they don't just learn from history. They are shaped by it, guided by it, haunted by it." The Zix didn't just attack a research station. They awakened memories 50,000 years old, embedded in the very essence of what humanity has become. As if to punctuate his words, another transmission cut through space. The human fleet was moving. Not toward the Zix homeworld, as many had feared, but into perfect defensive formations around every human world and station. They weren't preparing for revenge. They were preparing to ensure that this time, Extinction would not find them unprepared. Admiral Krios of the Zix Confederation watched in growing horror as his battle fleet's formation crumbled against the human advance. His flagship's crystalline bridges pulsed with emergency signals from dozens of ships simultaneously. "Impossible," he whispered, watching his carefully planned defensive grid dissolve. "They're moving as if they know. Your next move." The voice of Admiral Chen cut through his tactical channel. "We do. We've been running these scenarios for 100 years." On his command display, Krios watched as human ships flowed through space like schools of predatory fish. When his dreadnoughts launched their synchronized energy barrage, the human vessels didn't just evade. They used the movement to position themselves for perfect counterstrikes. "Combat Protocol Zix 147, his tactical officer announced. "Standard response STO." "Belay that," Krios shouted, but too late. His ships were already executing the textbook maneuver, spreading out to envelop the human force. The human fleet split instantly, transforming from a unified mass into smaller autonomous units that slipped through the gaps in his formation like water through fingers. "You're wondering how we countered your standard protocol so easily," Admiral Chen's voice carried a hint of sadness. "The truth? We've spent decades studying every known combat doctrine in the galaxy. Not just studying. Evolving responses through millions of simulated encounters. A new wave of human ships emerged from quantum space, their arrival perfectly timed to catch Krios' fleet mid-maneuver. Their weapons weren't the crude kinetic devices the galaxy had come to expect from humanity. They fired synchronized pulses that transformed the crystalline hulls of Zix ships into cascading fractals of their own destruction. "Every tactic you know," Chen continued, "every strategy your academies teach has been analyzed, countered, and improved upon in our wargames. We didn't just prepare for combat. We prepared for combat with every known species in the galaxy." Krios watched as his flagship's sensors detected something even more terrifying than the humans' tactical precision. Their ships were learning, adapting in real time. Each engagement fed data to their battle network, refining their responses with machine-like efficiency but human creativity. "Pull back to secondary positions," he ordered, hoping to regroup around the mineral-rich moons his force had been assigned to protect. But the humans had already seized those positions, emerging from hidden bases beneath the moon's surfaces. "Your secondary defense line." Chen's voice was gentle now. "We built those bases 5 years ago, disguised as private mining operations. Your own corporations approved the permits." A desperate Zix cruiser attempted to quantum jump to safety. The humans didn't attempt to stop it. Instead, it emerged from quantum space directly into a carefully positioned defensive grid, as if the humans had calculated its exact escape vector before the battle even began. "We mapped every possible retreat route," Chen explained. "Every desperate gambit. Every last stand position. Not because we wanted this fight, but because we needed to ensure that once it began, it would end quickly and decisively." Krios watched as his fleet, the pride of the Zix Confederation, was systematically dismantled by an enemy that moved with the precision of a surgical instrument and the adaptability of a living organism. "Your tactics were perfect," he finally admitted, his crystalline form dimming in defeat. "Too perfect. As if you'd fought this exact battle before." "We have. Thousands of times. In simulations so detailed they predicted not just your strategies, but your exact words." Chen's response carried no triumph, only confirmation. "Every human ship commander has fought this battle in virtual space more times than you've actually been in combat. We don't train for war, Admiral Krios. We've been living it in our minds for generations." As the last of his ships surrendered, Krios understood at last. Humanity hadn't hidden their true nature out of fear or deception. They had hidden it because they knew that once revealed, the galaxy would never see them the same way again. The species that prepares for every possible battle isn't just ready for war, they're haunted by its inevitability. The stars themselves seemed to dim as humanity's victory became absolute, not through overwhelming force, but through the perfect application of lessons learned in battles fought only in simulation, prepared for since before their enemies were born. As the last echoes of battle faded from the Proxima system, Admiral Chen ordered all ships to broadcast on open frequencies. Every screen across the galaxy activated, displaying not scenes of triumph or military might, but the personal log of Dr. Elena Martinez. The recording showed the chief researcher of Europa 7 in her lab, dark circles under her eyes, but smiling as she held up a crystalline structure that pulsed with healthy light. Day 847 of the crystalline degradation trials. Her voice rang clear across the silence of space. We finally stabilized the molecular matrix. The treatment works. Gods, it actually works. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at something off-camera. Cricks can go home to their parents tomorrow. No more treatments, no more pain. We did it. The feed shifted to security footage from the station's children's ward. Young Zix, their crystalline forms clouded by disease, played alongside human children. Their laughter, translated through universal communicators, needed no interpretation. Joy sounds the same in any language. In the Zix High Command Center, Supreme Commander Vax watched in rigid silence as the footage continued. His own child had suffered from degradation before a breakthrough treatment 5 cycles ago. The realization hit him like a quantum surge. That treatment had come from Europa 7's research. You're wondering why we show you this. Admiral Chen's voice carried over the broadcast. Why, in our moment of victory, we choose to remind the galaxy of a medical research station. The answer is simple. This is what you actually destroyed. The feed displayed project files from the station's database. Treatments for 13 different species genetic disorders, breakthrough protocols in cross-species organ transplantation, and early-stage research into cellular regeneration that promised to extend lifespans across the galaxy. Europa 7 wasn't just a research station. A new voice cut in. Ambassador Sarah Chen, the Admiral's mother. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength isn't our capacity for war. It's our drive to prevent suffering. The broadcast showed Dr. Martinez's final research notes, updated just hours before the station's destruction. She had been working on a revolutionary treatment for crystalline lattice reinforcement, a cure for the most common birth defect among Zix children. Your military analysts will study this conflict. Admiral Chen continued. They'll examine our hidden fleets, our advanced weapons, our battle tactics, but they'll miss the point entirely. Our rage doesn't come from wounded pride or territorial ambition. It comes from the destruction of possibility. Security feeds showed the station's last moments. Researchers ensuring their data was transmitted, parents sheltering children, Dr. Martinez calmly leading evacuation drills even as the shields failed. Not a single moment of panic. Not one break in procedure. They had prepared for this too. Humanity doesn't excel at war because we love it. Ambassador Chen's voice was heavy with sorrow. We excel because we've learned that peace must be protected. Every weapon we build, every tactic we perfect, every fleet we hide, they exist to defend the things that truly matter. The final image showed a split screen. On one side, the destroyed Europa 7 station. On the other, blueprints for its replacement. A facility 10 times larger, with research bays dedicated to every known species in the galaxy. You thought our warning about anger was a threat, Admiral Chen concluded. It wasn't. It was a plea. Because we knew that once provoked, we would have to show the galaxy what we've become. And in doing so, we would change everything. In medical facilities across Zix space, doctors began receiving encrypted data packets. Dr. Martinez's complete research archive, including her final breakthrough. The message attached was simple. They were trying to save your children. Honor their memory by finishing their work. The galaxy had expected humanity's victory to end in destruction. Instead, it ended with an offer of healing. Because humanity remembered not just how civilizations fall, but how they rise again. Not through force of arms, but through the steady, relentless pursuit of a better tomorrow. Even if that pursuit must sometimes be protected by fleets hidden in darkness and weapons concealed in ice. The Zix High Council chamber, with its towering crystalline spires, fell silent as Admiral Chen stepped through the quantum portal. She wore no armor, carried no weapons, and was accompanied only by Dr. Martinez's young daughter, Sophia. Supreme Commander Vax's crystalline form shifted uncertainly. Protocol demanded the victor's terms be delivered from a position of military strength, not this quiet personal appearance. "You seem confused," Chen said, her voice carrying in the perfect acoustics of the chamber. "You expected warships in orbit, troops in your streets, the traditional displays of conquest." Sophia stepped forward, carrying a small container that pulsed with soft blue light. "Mom's last project," she said, her young voice steady despite the emotion behind it. "She completed the formula the morning before." She took a breath. "It's a permanent cure for crystalline degradation. Not just treatment, a cure." The council members' forms flickered with disbelief. Such a breakthrough should have taken decades more research. Vax leaned forward, his crystalline structure catching the light. "Why would you bring this now? After what we—" "Because this is who we are," Chen interrupted. "This is who we've always been, beneath the weapons and the warnings. We build things. We fix things, even when those things are broken by the very people we're trying to help." Quantum projectors activated around the chamber, showing construction ships already at work in the Europa 7 debris field. Not human ships, vessels from every major species in the galaxy, working together under human coordination. "Your punishment is this," Chen announced. "Your finest medical researchers will work alongside ours in the new facility. Your engineers will help build it. Your teachers will help staff it. You'll be part of creating something so magnificent that it will make the original station look like a prototype." The projection shifted to show the plans. A massive medical research complex, with wings dedicated to every known species. At its heart, a memorial garden listing 2 sets of names, those lost in the attack, and beside each name, space for those who would be saved by their unfinished work. "But that's not punishment," one council member protested. "That's opportunity." "Exactly," Sophia said quietly. "Mom always said the hardest punishment is being forced to understand exactly what you destroyed. You'll work with us. You'll know these people you killed, not as statistics, but as colleagues who should have been beside you. Every breakthrough will remind you of the ones we lost. Every life saved will show you what could have been saved sooner." Chen gestured, and the projection showed the human fleet, not advancing, but withdrawing. Ships that had proved unstoppable in battle now moved with deliberate peace, leaving defensive positions, powering down weapons. "We could destroy you," Chen stated simply. "Our weapons could reduce your worlds to crystal dust. Our fleets could establish an empire that would last millennia. But that's not what humanity does with power. Not anymore. We learned that lesson 50,000 years ago." Sophia opened the container, revealing vials of the cure. "Every Zix child suffering from degradation will receive this immediately. The patents and research will be shared across the galaxy. And every time it saves a life, the records will show where it came from. Europa 7. The council chamber's perfect acoustics captured the sound of crystalline forms shifting in shame and wonder. They had expected retribution, devastation, the traditional consequences of defeat. Instead, they faced something far more challenging: the opportunity to become what they could have been all along. "Your military analysts called our battle tactics a symphony," Chen concluded. "They weren't wrong. But this is the real music of humanity. Building, healing, turning enemies into allies not through force but through shared purpose." She turned to leave, then paused. "We meant what we said about anger. We meant every warning. But what we never had the chance to explain was why we were so desperate to avoid showing you our strength." She smiled sadly. "Because once you've seen what humanity can do in war, it's easy to forget what we can do in peace, and that would have been the greatest loss of all." Behind her, the quantum projectors showed the first foundation stones being laid in the new Europa 7 complex, each one inscribed with a simple message. In memory of those who healed, we build forward. 10 years after the Europa 7 incident, the Great Hall of the new research complex hummed with activity. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered beneath the vast transparent dome, where the debris field of the original station had been transformed into a glittering memorial asteroid belt. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now significantly grayer but standing just as straight, watched a young Zix researcher present their findings. The crystalline being's form glowed with perfect health, one of the first children to receive Dr. Martinez's cure. Through combining human medical protocols with Arxian temporal biology, the researcher explained, their crystalline form resonating with excitement, we've successfully extended the natural lifespan of 3 separate species by 40%. And this is just the beginning. In the front row, Sofia Martinez, now head of Xenological Research, smiled. Her mother's last project had grown into something beyond anyone's imagining. The new Europa 7 had become more than a research station. It was a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. The Galactic Council had changed too. Where once there had been tiers of separation between species, now representatives sat integrated, their seating arranged by shared research interests rather than political power. The human section was notably empty. They had declined permanent seats, preferring to rotate positions among all species involved in current projects. Ambassador Kex, his ancient form supported by medical innovations, developed in the very facility he stood in, approached the central podium. A decade ago, he began, mandibles clicking in the rhythm of historical declaration. We misunderstood humanity's warning. We thought it spoke of military might, of hidden fleets and secret weapons. The hall's holographic displays activated, showing the station's dual memorial. On one side, the names of those lost in the attack. On the other, a constantly updating list of lives saved by the research conducted here. The second list was thousands of times longer than the first. But we understand now, Kex continued. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their ships or their tactical brilliance. It was their memory. They remembered not just how to fight wars, but why to avoid them. They remembered not just how to destroy, but how to rebuild. Above the assembly, a new ship class moved into position. The first vessel jointly designed by every member species. Its hull bore no weapons, but carried the most advanced medical and research facilities ever constructed in space. Their warning about anger wasn't about fear of their military response, Kex explained. It was about their fear of having to delay progress. Every moment spent in conflict was a moment they couldn't spend building, healing, discovering. Their preparation for war wasn't about winning battles. It was about ending them quickly so they could return to their true work. Sophia stood to join him at the podium, carrying a small holographic projector. It displayed her mother's final personal log, never before shown publicly. If you are seeing this, Dr. Martinez's image said, then something went wrong. But remember what I've taught all my students, human and alien alike. Setbacks are temporary. Progress is eternal. The universe is too vast and wonderful for us to waste time fighting when we could be exploring and growing together. The assembled representatives watched as the hologram showed Dr. Martins working with her team, teaching children, laughing with colleagues of every species. The final image was of her holding the crystalline cure, her tired face lit with joy. "We come in peace," Sophia quoted, "but please don't make us angry. Not because we'll destroy you, but because every moment spent in conflict is a moment we could have spent saving lives." The new Europa 7 complex gleamed in the starlight, its research wings extending like welcoming arms. In the decade since the conflict, it had produced more medical and scientific breakthroughs than the previous century of separated research. The humans warned us, Kex concluded, and we finally understand. Their anger wasn't dangerous because of their capacity for war. It was dangerous because it delayed their capacity for miracles. Above the assembly, The memorial asteroid belt caught the light of a new day, each fragment a reminder that from destruction could come rebirth, from conflict could come cooperation, and from the darkest moments could come the brightest futures. The humans had warned the galaxy not to make them angry. Now, at last, the galaxy understood why. Because they had so much more important work to do.